Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Collective VC podcast. Today we're joined by Joel Schmit. He's the founder and CEO of AUTIHD. Now, AUTIHD also pitched earlier in the year in April at our pitch competition. I'm going to link their pitch down below. It's only 3 minutes if you want to check that out. Joel has also asked me to let you know that he is hosting a webinar in July on the 24th about autism and ADHD in the workplace. And I'm going to drop the registration link for that as well if you guys are interested. So yeah, without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy. It's a really informative episode for startup founders who are interested in learning more about neurodiversity. So yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, so hello and thanks for the warm welcome. I'm Joël, as you mentioned. I'm 34 years old and I'm autistic. So 3 years ago, I got my autism diagnosis. At the age of 9, I already got an ADHD diagnosis. And things didn't go very well in my early childhood. And even after my autism diagnosis, when I thought it would help me a lot, I saw that there were several problems in the healthcare system and that I won't get the support I really need. So I decided to change this and create AUTIHD.
In terms of the services that AUTIHD are offering to people who are neurodivergent like us, or also just making their life easier, what does that look like?
So we have different steps. In summer, we will release our app for testing, the first app. The app will mainly contain an organizer with AI features to help you scheduling your tasks. Coaching chat, so you will get coaching lessons there empowered by AI. You can go if you have like difficult situations in your daily life. It will help you to go through it, to explain it to you, to see what you can change, to calm you down, to put the stress down, and it will be based on CBT techniques. And then a very basic stress level monitor at the beginning. So what we want to do here is because a lot of people that are neurodivergent, they can't monitor their stress level properly. So for me, I will feel good. I can have 5 meetings, 6 meetings. I will feel super good because I don't see that my stress level is going up. And the 7th meeting, it will just kill me. Let's say kill me. It can cause a breakdown, a shutdown, a meltdown. It depends on a person. For me, it's a shutdown, so I will not be able to do anything anymore. And in the beginning for testing, it will be very basic because we plan to do studies here together with the medical team here in Luxembourg to make a really good one, to make one that will work. Can depend on several biomarkers, but for the beginning it will be very basic. We plan to add a period system, maybe some big apps like Flow, for example, because for women, especially, of course, for women, the period, their cycle will affect their stress a lot, and even more if they are autistic or have ADHD. So this is the first step. Here we plan to perfect the app during the first 2 years. So right now we're on the development of the first version we plan to test before releasing. And like I said, 2 years. And after this, when we have the app, it's working, it's perfectly working, we will go to the second step. The second step will include a marketplace for therapists, coaches, and specialists. Because right now, the waiting time for me, for example, it's around 8 weeks between each therapist appointment. The problem we have in Europe, it's everywhere. I think France, for example, it's the leader. You have to wait 8 months for a first therapist appointment in average. So we want to build a marketplace, not only with therapists, not only with doctors, because we can't do magic. There will not be 10,000 more therapists just because we want it. So we want to include coaches because coaches, they are people that know there are ADHD coaches for autism. They know the topic. They will help me. Even I am using them. And Right now, we were at the Health Tech conference here in Luxembourg, and it's a huge topic. The huge topic was reimbursement, because right now, if you take a coach, it will not be reimbursed, and the EU are working on it. And they told us we had the very best time to start with this, because they are making a lot of progresses, and they plan to reimburse more medical apps and stuff like this. So what we aim for is a platform where it doesn't matter if you take a coach, a therapist, another doctor, another specialist, but you will get reimbursed for the costs that will come with our app. This is the second stage, and the third stage is, because it's a huge problem, and we want to solve this, is the unemployment rate for people with ADHD, autism, and other neurodiversity. So we want to create a platform, while at this point we already have the customers on the company side and the customers, the normal patients, the users, and we want to connect them together. We want to ease this whole process. So right now, a huge problem, especially for people with autism, is that the unemployment rate is, depending on studies, depending on countries, but most numbers go from 50 to 90% here in Europe, unemployment rate. And we spoke to people, we tried to figure out what is the problem. And a lot of people told us they see job descriptions and they don't understand what's going on. We use fancy words now, like in German, a cashier. They have a very fancy word for this. I even forgot it. But based on this word, you will not know they're looking for cashier. And the job descriptions, they're not telling you anything. It's okay, it's in development, but what exactly am I supposed to do here? Teamwork is necessary, but how much? How will it look? So a lot of people with autism, they don't know if they will fit there, and they are scared, and they will not even try to get a job. And the second problem, it might even be the biggest problem, is the job interview. There are questions asked that are not really necessary. So
You
you're
mentioned
not
that
looking
before, right? The idea when someone's like, "Oh, what do you see yourself in X amount of years?" and it's like it's such an open-ended
exactly.
question. I'm curious. I just want to pick up on something you mentioned earlier. Obviously, the need is so huge to support people, because obviously there's been a huge upsurge in people recognizing that they have neurodivergency, right?
Yep.
So I want to just go back quickly to the name AUTIHD. How do we sort of combine autism and ADHD into a sort of single application? And is there a particular reason for that? Is it, I don't like the word comorbidity, but is it quite common to have two at the same time? And is there any sort of space to look into other neurodivergency as well?
Yes. So why did we focus on ADHD and autism? I think it's very easy. Like I have both. I know a lot of people that have both. There are common symptoms both have together, and common problems both have together. Time management, for example, we met a lot of people with ADHD that can't monitor their stress level too. So we figured out that here it's very easy to combine these two things and provide a solution for both. What other things in neurodiversity we can support? This is something we'll figure out, but for the very beginning, it will be focused on ADHD and autism. So it might be that we put a version that will be easier to use for people with dyslexia, for example. But to be honest, if you focus on everything, you will not help anyone. I wish.
Very true.
I wish in the first question we asked ourselves before we started the market research was, will we help kids? Will we help adults? Will we help both? We started our market research. We were speaking to people with autistic kids. We were speaking to adults. And we figured out is that autistic kids in Europe have way better support. It's not perfect, but they have way better support in most countries than adults. We saw that most digital solutions, they are made for kids. It's a good thing. I mean, I wish I would had this support when I was young. But for adults like myself, I was looking for digital solutions because I just saw my therapist doesn't have the time. I tried to switch, it doesn't work. They all have a time problem. And so I was looking for digital solutions, and I found like 10 apps that would cover small amount of my problems and would require to have these 10 apps on my smartphone and use them. So yes, this is why we focus on adults, ADHD, and autism.
So I want to dive deeper a little bit into the stress monitoring service, because at least for me, I feel like I'm somebody with ADHD, and when I try and monitor my stress, it's more about monitoring it over a medium to long term period of time, not so much during the day, but I really don't really work out when I'm getting burnt out, or I struggle to recognize within a period of a week when I might be hitting my limit. But it sounds more like you're looking at a day by day frame, or maybe you could just explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. So for the very beginning, I have to repeat it. We tried to figure something out in 4 months, and we just saw if we publish something in summer, for example, it might be very disappointing, only held by 50% of the people. So we decided in the beginning it will be very basic. So the app will ask you to think about how you feel. If you're stressed, will ask you in the morning, how did you sleep? At a later point, we want this to work on different factors. It's not only short time, but the AI will learn depending on the user. So I have to think, if you there's a nice saying, if you met one autistic, you met one autistic. You can't build one solution and test it on one person and expect it to work on the next. So what we will do, I think until the end of the year, is to think about different factors that will lead to this shutdown, that will maximize your stress level. Because for me, for example, it's groceries. If I do groceries, my day is nearly gone. If I had some stress before, and it's gone. I know autistic people that do groceries quite well. They don't like it, but so we want to define the different factors, or AI will define the different factors together with the user. So you have to put basically that you have a grocery task in your organizer, and to tell the system how do you feel after it, to think about it. Once you had a shutdown, of course, in the very beginning, you have to tell the system that you had a shutdown. So the system can learn what are your stress factors. Are there tasks that will really put the stress level up? Are there tasks that might not be? And from this, learn and warn you, because it's before it's too late. And we're trying to get studies, hopefully next year, or start a study together with the medical team in Luxembourg, because there are biomarkers that could show you if you start being stressed or not, like your voice, for example. I know that they already did a study for neurotypical people, and now they can figure out if you're stressed by a small voice sample. So you might not know it, but they know it, and
Like
it's
a
working quite good.
modulation in the speech, just the way you pronounce
Yeah,
something, or yeah.
exactly. And we want to launch a study with them. And they seem to be quite interesting about it. Of course, it will cost a lot of money, and we hope that next year we are ready to start it. This would be the very best way in combination with the other factors, because sleep can affect me. For example, sleep affects me a lot. If I didn't sleep good, or I had some stress during the sleep, my day will, I know that the shutdown is very easy to calm if I have several meetings during the day. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting you picked up on something like groceries. I mean, for those out there who are listening who aren't neurodivergent, it might sound something quite trivial, but I guess it's these little things that, we exist in a world that is so far separated from really, really, like no one can predict how the world's going to evolve, and going to a grocery store with these luminant lights and things that we might not even someone might not pick up on because it's something they can tolerate, whereas other people it really does get to them. For me, I sometimes I struggle with like really loud networking environments, but I didn't know that was like something that was possible with ADHD. I thought that might be a more autistic trait. So like you say, it might be kind of more like a spectrum where you said you meet one autist and they kind of you only met one, because it is a spectrum where everyone has their own characterization and materialization of what their symptoms actually look like. But yeah, just going back to groceries. So would you be able to import maybe your own calendar of lots of different tasks that you have lined up during the day? Because for me, just to play devil's advocate here, I'm not always a massive fan of having just another app to check in or to use, because it just makes sometimes more difficult. So is there a way to seamlessly transition some of my tasks onto AUTIHD, for example?
Yes. Here I really have to mention that we're a team of three. We have some money. We quite put a lot of money inside this whole project to have the first version and be able to test it in summer. So it's limited to some things. We had to cut off some things for the testing version, because of things that sound very easy to us. I was kind of surprised. I'm not a very expert at developing, but how much do small things in an app cost if you have to hire someone? For the very beginning, we plan to import the Google Calendar. So there will be an import, but we can't put every calendar inside for the very beginning.
For sure.
It sounds
Gotta
like
prioritize, right?
Exactly. It sounds like a very easy thing, but it's not. I thought it would be very easy to just import everything, but yeah, we're a bit limited on time, so we decided to use the Google Calendar, because for most people, I think it's one of the most used calendars, actually.
Yeah, for sure. A bit of a different question. How does AUTIHD relate to the medication process, if at all? Because I know it's a huge topic at the moment, either with shortages or long waits to get a diagnosis that you require to even get a prescription in the first place. That's something I went through, months on months, and eventually just paying to go private, because luckily, we had the NHS in this country, but it is very stressed and underburdened, because lots of people are trying to go for these prescriptions and diagnoses. So yeah, that's just a question about medication.
So yes, I try to be neutral here. I had a lot of medication when I was younger. To be honest, it didn't help me a lot, if ever. And at 16, yeah, it was 16, I decided myself that I will not take these pills anymore. Nobody could force me anymore. It did not affect me. So yes, medication, I think some things can be useful. I know people that take some medicaments where it helps them really. For me, I have melatonin, for example, because I can't sleep. I will stay awake until 2 a.m. and I had a doctor that suggested trying melatonin, and since I take it, I can sleep.
That's
For
interesting.
general,
Yeah, I think it's definitely like a personal thing, right? I mean, for me, when it comes to sleep, I'm usually not sleeping because I'm doing something else, whether it's a late night university assignment or it's editing a podcast episode or on just browsing on the internet. But it's really like insomnia, right? So maybe I should try like melatonin for sleep. But I guess when it came to my ADHD, the thing I really noticed about medication is when I got it, they were like, right, you have to take this 3 times a day and you have to do this. And that's how you're going to be able to cope with your ADHD. And we'll check up in 6 months. And if it sucks, you can stop. And if you want more, you get more, whatever. But what I found is that just when I started to use it, I started to realize what worked for me. So some days I can look at my calendar and say, okay, so I want to do a chunk of work here, or I'm going to need some slightly more focus or motivation at this time. And I can take it and I can really build my own rhythm. But then other times, for example, I was recently at a conference in London, and I feel like I'm much more fluid and able to talk to people in person, especially when I'm unmedicated. But I did try my medication as an experiment, and I found myself getting much more sort of overwhelmed by the noises and the sounds around me, and the temperature of the room. And apparently it's because when you have ADHD, it can mask some of the more autistic tendencies that ADHD has when you are unmedicated. So then when you take medication, some of these more autistic things can come out a little bit. And I was unaware of that, and that wasn't told to me when I got the medication given to me. So I think it's all these little subtleties that they don't really tell you about, and you have to work it out on your own. So I'm totally not judgmental of people who say, right, that's not for me, because it's a noticeable change when I take it. So I know. And just for listeners out there, this is like Ritalin, a small stimulant. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's say it like this: at AUTIHD, we will not put a focus on tell you that you need medication. I'm personally, for me, I'm like I said, I'm not a big fan of it. I can understand if people have some medicaments because the spectrum is huge. Even for ADHD, for some medicaments can be very helpful. For some, it will not. I still question if you should try something out for 6 months. Like my doctor, he likes 1 month, even for melatonin. 1 month of trying, if it doesn't help you, just stop it. Yes, it's a very delicate subject. We will never tell anyone to stop the medication or to take pills. We're not doctors. We're not here to replace a doctor. And even for the future, it's very important for me to note that AI is the future. I mean, we met a lot of people that say, yes, but AI is not that far. And we showed them some examples of how far it is based on our chat, which is quite simple. It's nothing for AI. And they were convinced. Of course, you have to data regulation and this, you have to take this very important. But AI is the future. When I say AI is the future, it doesn't mean that we will replace therapists. Nobody will ever replace a therapist. It's very important this will tell the people if you have problems, like not problems, but if you're autistic, you have ADHD or other things. But to me, it's very important that you have a therapist. Honestly, every human on earth should have a therapist.
I'm curious about your take on that, though, because especially with CBT, I hear a lot of people saying that it's a framework that can be delivered digitally very easily. So it's something that if you go through the steps, especially when it comes to like processing trauma, it's something that you don't actually require a therapist to be done. And there's actually been quite good results just having it as something that's been delivered digitally. So I wonder if you have any thoughts on that, firstly, and also whether or not requiring an in-person therapist creates this sort of unnecessary financial barrier to getting therapy that potentially AI can resolve.
Yes, so like you said, CBT is very easy to transfer digitally. There are different techniques. It can be breathing techniques. It can be how do I react or how do I think about situations. Let's speak shortly about my therapist. If I speak to my therapist, I will tell her about difficult situations I had, like grocery shopping. Something was overwhelming. I got mad at someone after it and whatever. And my therapist just goes through this situation. What exactly happened? So I will think about what happened, what led me to be in this situation, what things from the outside led me to be in this situation. And then she will try, for example, to find me techniques, how in this moment I could reduce my stress, how I could think differently. It's not about changing the patient or the person. It's about changing the person thinking about something. Because oftenly I think I wasn't in fault. I did nothing wrong, and this person just overreacted. Oftenly I see afterwards that it was my fault, or not entirely, but a part of it. And I will get techniques how to change this. And this digitally is very easy, even to show people you're not alone. It's a huge problem. People think they are alone. Nobody understands me. but we do, and a lot of people do. And first, it's very important to show this. How could AI maybe give therapists more space to interact with more people? Yeah, I think it's possible. I think when I think about my last 4 meetings, or 3 or 4 meetings, this would have been possible with our chatbot. I'm using it for myself already. At the other end, I have to say I like when I see my therapist. It's video chat because I don't like driving 1 hour to go to my therapist, sit there in the room, which is not mine. So it's entirely video. I would miss her. I would miss her. I think most people will tell you this, and I tell this at events. Everyone that asks me, "Do you think it could replace my therapist?" The answer is no. It can never replace.
Is it like a trust thing? Do you think like we instill a lot of trust in humans that we talk about things that we wouldn't necessarily talk to other people about, like the personal experiences in our lives that we need help working through and understanding? I think that takes quite a lot of initial trust. So to just cut that off in favor of something which is inherently, lacking personality, or maybe not lacking so much personality, given the recent GPT-4o announcement yesterday with the more natural and fluid conversation. But I think, there is an element of wanting that human trust, I think.
Yeah, it's about a lot of things. So we already have it in our plans, is to have a therapy session with the virtual avatar. So you will see a face you will be able to speak to. You will know that it's AI. Will not try to create something that will look absolutely real. And still, I would want to talk to human. I mean, I know this human for quite some time. The beginning is very difficult. You have these new therapies. You will see how it works. They are quite good normally at building up a relationship. You don't want to lose this. You want to see this face, and sometimes you want to make a joke, or they will make a small joke to make you laugh. Here we are a bit at the maximum of AI. You would know it's faked. If my therapist feels bad for something or feels sorry for me, there are real emotions. AI will never provide real emotions. It will always be faked. We're right now able to deliver jokes during a session to make you laugh a bit, because in an appropriate way, of course, not just. And it's fun. It's making me smile, but it's just not the same. So we really, and I think this will be the purpose of AI in this case, really just aim to close the gaps these weeks in between your therapy sessions, and to show your therapist so you can get a report. Probably not in summer, but also something we plan for the end of the year, beginning next year, is to create a report on everything. So based on your task, on your stress level, on your CBT chat, to create a report you can show to your therapist.
So that becomes a resource that's used when you're actually having a human therapy session.
Exactly. In most European countries, in the main countries at least, you will be able to get a therapy appointment. It's not that. It's a time until there's a time between sessions. And you want to show your therapist the progress. You want, for me, when there are two months between the appointments, a huge problem for me is I can have a very difficult situations 2 weeks after my last appointment. I will just forget it. I will forget to speak about it because exactly. And I think most people, it's very hard to speak about every single situation that happened. So here you can show your therapist if you want your report. It will be by date Monday, Tuesday, and you can show the progress you're making. And the therapist can see difficult situations. You can speak about it.
Otherwise, you find yourself playing like catch up, right? Instead of being able to focus on the session, on actually actionable steps and making progress, you you're just spending all that time going over everything that happened
Yeah.
before your last session. Suddenly you're like 30, 40 minutes into a 1 hour conversation, and then you're just trying to speed run the last 20 minutes of getting advice and tips, and it doesn't work, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. So I would say for me, it's around 20 to 30 minutes just about talking what happened. And if you have an hour, yeah, we want to connect both in our app or in a way where you can share your report. But here is also very important to say that we have to secure the data properly. We already contacted a legal team or worked with them once we started a bit before. And I think this is a huge problem, is trust. How much do you trust AI? How much do you trust an application to speak about your emotions, to speak about what's happening, what's going on? And this is very important that you make sure that your data is protected. And yeah.
So I want to move on to talking about the sort of commercial landscape of selling something like this, because I've been through the process on the inside. I went through, you've probably heard of DSA UK, Disability Services, and it's kind of convoluted in the sense that once you get it, you then have to go and have a needs assessment. So you have to go to a building and sit down with somebody. This is a £500 appointment, by the way, not that you pay for, but that comes out of your DSA allowance from the student loan organization. And then they talk to you about your needs, and then you wait a couple more weeks, and they eventually either send you the digital keys to the software, or they send you the physical items with whatever insurance package that's also happened. But that's a long period of time. And then if you also need to get anything updated, you have to go back and have another appointment and have a face-to-face conversation with somebody. And loads of these little companies have sprung up to handle all of these conversations, needs assessment conversations. So I feel like there's definitely a lot of streamlining to be done there. But then that makes me think, how easy is it? Surely can't be very easy to try and get a new product into this, because it feels like they use the same suppliers, they have the same, some of the equipment is very ancient, and some of the softwares. I think the newest thing I saw was this transcribing software, Glean, that was on there. It was like probably released like within the last 5 years or so, but it does feel like a very slow moving process. So I wonder how you're going to enter that.
So if I get a question right, do you mean how do we enter the healthcare systems and them working with us?
Yeah, just the bureaucracy in the health system in general would be great to get your insight on that.
Yes, I think I will not tell you anything new if I say that the healthcare system changes are working at a very low rate. Like I mentioned before, we were at the Health Tech Conference, so the European Digital Health Tech Conference here in Luxembourg. When there were 2 days, and then one of the biggest topics were changes in reimbursement, changes in the healthcare, making it more digital. I think it's quite the same everywhere. They are now working together to ease in this process, to allow digital solutions to come into the healthcare system easier. It's still a long way to go. And it's a hard way to go, because I think Europe, the world quite in general, they slept through the last years where changes could have been made. We're still sticking to these old systems. It's very hard. We're speaking, we will have meetings with the Ministry of Health in the future a lot. I make no illusion here, we will take hundreds of meetings with everyone. It's definitely a challenge. It's a huge challenge. Working with companies, I think it will be the easiest, because we spoke to companies. We saw the needs they have to change something. They just don't know how, and they don't know who to connect. Here we can help with universities. I think it might be a bit easier if you have a partnership. To go into the healthcare system itself, it's very hard, but you need them. If you like we at the beginning will avoid to be a medical device, so we will not be therapy, will be coaching and other solutions, but we will avoid to be a medical device. We got asked this, I think, 2 months ago by an institution we're working together, which help us to put a foot here in Luxembourg and to start doing a lot. They asked us, "Do you want to be a medical device or not?" We said at the beginning we don't want. Why? Because there are so many regulations, and until you can actually release something, there will be so much lost time you could have used for other things, for usual things, making your product better. So for the first application here, I must say will not be a medical device. Something we'll talk about in around 2 years, where we aim to be a medical device together with the platform. But I don't want to make anyone, any other startup too much hope here. It will be a very long process, and you will have a lot of meetings. But we got told that in 2 years, so this is why we took the right time to start in 2 years or a bit more. There will be a lot of work done in this system. I can tell you that everybody is working together now, and we will see changes. We have to see when. For the beginning, too, something I have to say. Using AI costs. So we will have costs. So of course, we'll ask some money. It will be very cheap. I can't release the prices here now, but currently we're setting them up, and I think we found the perfect range. It will not. It will be easy for everyone to use it, no matter what your salary is. I wanted this to be available for everyone.
Yeah. I think financial accessibility is a really big question when it comes to building things for neurodivergent people, because I see other apps, for example, and sometimes it feels like they're pitching solely to very career-driven neurodivergent people who also happen to be entrepreneurs or also happen to be, highly functional within a particular role, and therefore they might be more willing to spend on something that helps them optimize their job function or the task, get more meetings, like you said, like manage stress and just continue to hit quotas, deadlines, metrics, etc. But that doesn't represent everybody who is neurodivergent, right? That's just a very small subset of people who want to perform well, but they also sometimes are the most vocal about their neurodivergency. It's not a disability, it's my superpower or something like that. I feel like that almost like a survivor bias that dominates the landscape of neurodivergent startups.
Yeah. I met a lot of people that don't like the term disability, and I can agree here, because let's be honest, it's called a disability because this world, where 80% of the people are neurotypical and 30% are neurodivergent. The reason we have, like me, I am disabled. I have this paper. Why did I go for this paper? Well, it protects me in the job. Still, I don't see myself as disabled. It's a world made by neurotypical people, because they are more, obviously. And if everybody just does 1 or 2 steps towards the other, and we change something in the workspace, in life, I mean, there are supermarkets doing autistic hours. We have this here in Luxembourg too. It's super nice when they dim the light, the music, it's less noise. And if we implement more things like this, honestly, we would not speak about disability here.
What do you think about like the fact that, do you ever find yourself spending more because of your being neurodivergent? I mean, now that you've mentioned the supermarket, I kind of was thinking about what my aversion to going is, and I've been spending way more on getting like groceries delivered purely because I hate it, and also because in the UK, especially, supermarkets change their layouts so frequently because they want you to spend more time in there and look for more products. And it feels like this maze every single time of just going in and finding what I want. I probably spend more time in there than other people because I get distracted very easily. And that means I just end up getting groceries delivered because I can see exactly what I ordered last time, and it's so much less of a hassle than going there, right? So I feel like, I don't know, do you feel like you spend more sometimes because you obviously have to pay the grocery fee or there might be other examples in different areas of your life.
Yeah, so when it comes to me, my partner, she's mostly doing the groceries for me. She's very good in this. I can understand why people would deliver these things home, and I can even understand why it's more expensive. But let's be honest, in the last 2 years, prices went up and up. It's crazy. I would say I have a quite nice salary, but I can't see myself paying for these deliveries. In general, I would say, do I pay more when I do the groceries than my partner? Of course, because I just want to go out. I have this list. My partner, she's comparing prices. I don't. I know we need to get eggs. There are 5 different sorts of eggs. I like when people say they live bio and they will support local products. I can't. I will just take the first egg thing that is there, open it, check quick, and go. So yes, in the end, I'm the one who would spend
very taxing, more. Right? To be in that sort of environment where there's like almost an abundance of choice. I think it's quite interesting. I love how we were sidetracked by groceries, but yeah, I think that just relates to your financial accessibility point in general. Is that it has to be something that's easy for everybody, just because so many things in this world aren't easy. And I think that's a nice way. You framed it really well. It's like this world was designed by neurotypical people, but that if we all just kind of take a step closer towards one another, then we'll find these areas where it really doesn't have to be so binary. There can be more compromise. It can be easier for everybody. And I feel like a lot of these things, people who consider themselves neurotypical, something like an hour at the supermarket where it's not so noisy, or like these things, other people might be able to benefit from them, even if they don't currently think that, right?
I even have a better idea. Why not dim the lights all the time? I mean, I asked neurotypical people how they feel about when the lights are a bit dim, and they said it's nice. You have to think about, especially autism. It's a broad range of symptoms. So I know people that say, "Oh, I have this too. Maybe I'm autistic." And I just end up explaining to them, "No, you have one of these symptoms. We have these symptoms. It's a collection of symptoms. But things that are stressing me can stress a neurotypical person too." And dimming the lights in supermarkets, stop this noisy music, or at least put the volume down. I know there are studies about people who will pay more or will buy more if you put a certain light or design or whatever. If we stop things like this and stop expecting from everyone to answer, "Hey, how are you?" Because to me, if I'm in a good mood, I have a lot of energy, especially in the beginning of the week. I would say, "Yes, I'm fine. How are you?" Let's be honest. Questions like these, you are not interested how the other person feel, and they will never answer you honestly. They will not say, "Yes, my dog is very sick." It's just like a polite form of whatever. Just say hi. Don't expect anyone
I hate the one I hate the most is, "What did you get up to on the weekends?" Like, I don't want to tell this person that I just,
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah, but these social rules, they are made for neurotypical people. You have to be polite. You have to stick to these words. Once we change these words and not get mad if someone doesn't answer my small talk or says, "Okay, listen, I'm not in the mood." Don't take it personally. I'm not mad at you. I just don't want to have small talk. There are a lot of things like this. Workplaces. I mean, for most workplaces, not for everyone, but for most workplaces, you can change a lot. Like me, I'm sitting in office some of the times with one or two other people, and after my diagnosis, I came up and said, "Okay, listen, this would help me. This would help me changing the colors of the wall, changing the lighting, put less aggressive lighting. You wear noise canceling headphones, for example. If I write a mail, please don't disturb me." And once we stuck to these things, I wouldn't say they're going perfectly, but things went a lot better. I get less mad. If I'm writing a mail, if you see me typing on my keyboard, don't come up to me and do this. Hey, don't do this. I will get super mad. I will really explode when I don't have energy, especially at the end of the week. I will explode.
Is it because sometimes other people can't necessarily understand what it's like to have your focus broken, or just also just when you might have invested a lot of effort into trying to even get to that state of focus in the first place, and you're finally in a sort of workflow, and then somebody else wants to drag your attention away. And yeah, I feel like it might just be an issue of really communicating with people how much effort it is sometimes to get into that state, right?
Yeah, if it would be that easy. I mean, you can have coworkers that are very understanding, and you can get coworkers that are, sorry, just assholes.
Maybe you need a little light on your desk, which is like a red light you can hit, and then when it's green, then they can come talk to you.
For example, or what I tell people is that I notice when they do this shortly, I notice it. I will continue writing my mail, and once I finish the mail, I will come back to them. It's not as I would not see anyone. But it's different for many people because there are people that don't notice. They're writing this mail, you can do this, this, this. They will not notice. Then what do people do? They start interrupting you with noise. They will call you. I think if everybody just waits when it's not an urgency, nobody is dying, you will not die when I answer. Just wait when you see the person is up to something. It can be phone, typing on a keyboard.
It's frustrating because as much as I agree with you, I also struggle to not be that other person sometimes, especially someone with ADHD. I've got this idea. I want to tell them I'm so like I I struggle to be patient sometimes when I've like finished their sentence or their point or their idea in their head before like three words and I know what they're gonna say. It's like autocomplete. So I just want to reply already. I have to wait for them to finish. But I understand it's like frustrating to be on the other end, right?
And here comes the thing, it's a human thing. I do the same. I interrupt people. And this is why I tell people that if they notice that I'm interrupting, then please just tell me, because in my head, I will not think about it. Once they told me, okay, you're interrupting me or disrupting me a lot, please stop in a nice way. Not, I will stop, I will think more about it. It's a human thing. There can be for sure solutions, like you said, red light or something. You can talk about different techniques with the coworkers, what might work. But mostly, I think it's the fear of not being noticed by the other. But I can tell you that in most situations where just say, okay, hey, they will know you wanted to talk to them and they will come back to you. It's really in the head. There are a lot of things you should change. And I think mostly we should start, and this is something we are telling companies already. It's to check together with your coworkers, together with your employees, what will work for them. Because it's very important, like I said, we want to work together with companies, we will work together with companies, and it's very important that we're not going there and change everything according to an autistic person or a person with ADHD, but it should be things that everybody can use. It can be headphones. If you provide headphones to the guy or the girl with ADHD, you should provide them too to people that are working, the neurotypical people that have problems with this, give it to them too. If you change the lighting in an office where 20 people work, you have to make sure that everybody is okay with it. It can't be dark. But a lot of companies where I'm going to, I see the lightings, they are so cold. These are these long spots, and I feel like I'm in a hospital. And these things, if you change this, for example, it can make life a lot easier. And of course, the communication, it's so important. Something my boss changed is the communication. If he has a task for me, he wants something to be done, he will clearly tell me, okay, I need this task to be done today by evening. I need this task to be done in a week. It takes him 5 minutes to make my tasks like this, make them precise, not talking around, but literally saying, okay, I need this document Exactly like this, or with this outcome, do it however you like, but with this outcome by the evening. And it's a lot about communication. There are a lot of things that needs to be changed.
It's
Um,
interesting. I mean, in the UK, I think it has the actual terminology they use is an employer is expected to make reasonable adjustments, which itself is so vague, but it kind of makes sense. I think that would probably be a good maybe something you can work on in the future, or someone else listening out here. It's like these a startup that would help people make these reasonable adjustments or work out what that even looks like. But I'm just thinking we've spoken a lot about human interaction and these different elements of what it's like to be neurodivergent and try and communicate that with people. But I want to hone in on your experience as someone who's building a startup. What is it like trying to communicate some of these things, maybe to investors or to different potential partners, or just like really making it clear from the get-go, like some of the things you need to be made clear just about who you are, what it's like to be you, something they need to understand, because I feel like you don't want to work with someone, you don't want to get into a long-term relationship with someone who just isn't on the same page, right? So how do you approach those conversations?
so you mean speaking about AUTIHD to investors or at events? Yeah, first thing, it's very overwhelming to me to pitch. We recently had a 30-minute pitch uh, in front of investors. We told them we're not fundraising right now, but it's for us to train, for you to get to know our names. What is something that really helps me is tell the people, and this is what we are doing in our pitch deck. You saw it. It's first I will tell my story. I will tell my story shortly. They will know I'm autistic. A lot of people don't know exactly what is autism, what can it be. They have this picture in their head, and but they will be okay with me not looking into their eyes, for example. So when I pitch, I had to look at the screen or really look around shortly, which can be a problem for them. But here it's not. At events, when we're talking to people, explaining them what we are doing, I say, okay, I'm autistic. I saw a problem we have, and I figure a way how to solve these problems or make them less complicated. They are very understanding, and I try to explain neurodiversity, especially ADHD and autism, in every conversation I have, and they are quite interested. So you can see they are asking questions, and a big problem, a huge problem we have, that everybody, I see this on my LinkedIn, for example, everybody is shouting to raise awareness. And I noticed that when I speak to neurotypical people, they start to excuse themselves.
Yes.
Every question they ask, I'm so sorry if I offend you, but what is it like? Or I'm so sorry if I used the wrong word. And I tell them it doesn't matter to me. What do you call me? Asperger? You say ASD. A lot of people don't like ASD because of the word disorder. I tell everyone just be simple. Use what you know, and I will happily tell you if something would be could be offended. How do you say this? Offending
Yeah,
to
offensive.
other
Yeah.
people. Offensive. Sorry, offensive to other people. But this is something I noticed because at some point, for sure, they met someone who got mad at them, and I'm autistic, and I can't tell you how many conversations I had with other artistic people telling me, you can't say this, you can't say this, you can't say this. And I was like, whoa, I'm autistic, but I don't know how to speak to them. I was afraid. And I started the same thing. I started to excuse myself.
I mean, it just
And
puts
this
up
is
barriers, right? Because as soon as like someone's
exactly,
worried about getting it right, they're not even going to have the conversation in the first place. Especially in an age where like, so many conversations are immortalized to the internet. They don't want that embarrassing thing about them to be out there forever. They don't want to get cancelled or whatever it is. But that's just a barrier between actually getting to a point of understanding and really good working out what somebody else has to go through, right?
exactly. I mean, people are scared to even ask questions. If you don't ask questions, how you will never know what autism is like, what ADHD is like, or what it can be like. And if we want to raise awareness, we should stop telling people all the time what they can't say and what they should say. Because I had discussions. I wanted them to be very fruitful. I wanted to see the problems. And I had discussions that went over 40 minutes just about the right wording. I was like, okay, the time is up and I have nothing. I respect and we will respect every opinion on what you don't like. I totally understand that people don't like ASD because of disorder. Even to me, it's not a disorder, but right now it's the medical term. And if someone uses it, or Asperger, I mean, for us, it's clear Asperger is not being used anymore. But other people, they don't know these changes because they're not into this topic. They just want to understand right now what's happening. I will not tell them I am not Asperger. You can't say I'm Asperger. You can't. No. I would say, okay, yeah, what we formerly called Asperger can be manifested like this and this. And I don't want people to feel bad. As long as they don't intend to insult me, use whatever word they like. And like this, we will raise awareness.
Sure. I'm conscious we're coming up close on time, so I kind of have two final questions. The first of which is, so you said you're going to be fundraising in the future. So if an investor comes to you and they clearly don't really understand, like, I mean, they might be interested in the market size. They think, oh, this many people have autism, this many people have ADHD. There's a clear opportunity here. But you can feel a little bit of friction, a little bit of misalignment. They might be trying to tell you how to communicate your product to people, even though they aren't neurodivergent. I mean, I'm just curious how you plan on navigating some of these challenges. Do you have any specific, maybe neurodivergent investors in mind? I can think of some. So yeah, I'm just curious what your plans are there.
Yeah, so right now we have an advisor. I can't tell his name now, but he is in this business angel network. He's very understanding. He loves this topic, and he even offered us first amount of money to make the development process faster and better. And these are the people we want to attract, people that will understand how it is and will not tell us how to do something if they don't. So yes, the best investors for us would be the ones in the topic. And I can tell you that I will not take any money from an investor that plans to build a big money-making machine by putting advertising everywhere or whatever, or selling it to the wrong things. We have this clear mission and we'll stick to this mission. And for investors, we want, of course, investors that will understand the problem, that will listen to us and will learn from it, and based on this, work together with us. But we will not take anyone on board that will tell us how to do something.
Yeah,
if
that's
they
a great
have no knowledge.
mentality. I 100% think that's the right approach to take. It's such a long-term relationship, right? And this, you really don't want someone breathing down your neck who's just misaligned with that. So I'm glad that that's a consideration.
If you have an investor on board, they will not be gone after a year. They will be there. They will, of course, have the right to say something. They will have the right to ask things, and it's totally okay. You're like working together. But we will only consider investors that will or have knowledge about this, or are ready to get knowledge about this and listen to us, and of course the market.
And so yeah, that was a really, really great conversation. So I'm wondering, how can I help you, and how can my audience help you? How can they learn more about AUTIHD, and how can they help the company grow?
So we are, of course, looking for testers for summer. We already have pre-registrations, but the more the better. So you could come to our website, AUTIHD.com, which needs a lot of work still, but you can pre-register there and be ready for our testing in summer. We also need people to complete our team, medical advisors, or if you're autistic or you have ADHD and you're a designer, we for sure have a spot for you. Same for developer. And If you have any questions, you can always contact me. It's Joël at AUTIHD.com, and I will happily answer all your questions.
And I'm going to drop and tag all of Joel's and AUTIHD's socials and links in the description below. So yeah, just check that out there. And I think, yeah, on that note, we are perfectly on time. So thank you so much, Joel, for sharing your thoughts and insights into your experience, both as a neurodivergent person and building a startup. I think it was super, super fascinating. And yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.